Good afternoon, my name's Danny Fuller, tattoo artist for the last 46 years now. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is another video, a time-lapse video of me painting a tattoo style canvas, and it features a red samurai versus a dragon, known as Mushai in Japanese, which is the warrior versus the beast. I've done something like this before in the past, done a few versions, but this would be a big back piece this size. So please excuse me just doing it on canvas. It's not as exciting as skin, but it's a lot quicker, and I can guarantee to finish it. If I was doing it in real life as a tattoo, it would take me forever. So this is just have it in a nutshell, really. I'll tell you what I'm doing and what I'd be using each part of the way through it, and as I go along, and show you the basics about doing a large piece like this. I'll also be doing a bit of a commentary. Last video I talked about how I got into tattooing from doing a homemade one on my arm when I was 15. Needle and ink, Indian ink, oh my god, but there we go. 46 years later, I'm still doing it. So yes, it'll be entertaining, I hope. Hopefully put a smile on your face, and I hope you like the process and all the stuff that goes with it. So I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for watching. Okay, here we go. The fierce warrior in his red armour is testing his martial prowess against the mystical, supremely powerful dragon. This would be my equivalent of the transfer. It's my sketch. Always good to sketch out first. You could never do this without a transfer, or at least a sketch. I would suggest using a transfer for something this big and complicated, because you want to get all the dimensions right and the positions and the action, get as much action into something like this as you can. So you can do the background freehand if you're familiar with the Japanese style of tattooing, but definitely the dragon, especially the head, get a nice characterful head. Lots of character in it. They come in all sizes, dragons' heads and shapes, forms, open mouth, closed mouth, but this is a closed mouth one, just for a bit different, But yes, so something like this on a large Japanese piece, you need to use a very thick outline, because it's got to be bold with all the solid work that goes behind it in the background, lots of black, lots of grey. So something like a 9-round shader I would use, or a 15-round shader. The outlines, they don't make them thick enough for this really, so you can use a shader for an outliner. In fact, they're much better than outliners on a thicker line. So give them a try. It's not just for shading, you can use them for lining as well. When I started tattooing, I would never have dreamed of being able to tattoo something like this. I mean, this is a top end really if you're going to do stuff like this. I just like the Japanese style. It's my speciality now really. I've done so much of it. Sleeves, I've done hundreds of sleeves. Back pieces, just fantastic really. So if you're lucky to get to do one of these, you should think yourself lucky. Thank the guy for sitting there, or the girl. They really are the creme de la creme, really, of the tattoo thing, I think. Portraits and everything nowadays are good, but good old solid colour work, you can't beat it, in my opinion. Yeah, so I was going to tell you how I got hold of my first equipment. I decided to be a tattooist after getting quite a few done. I didn't really have that in mind. I just got so into the tattoo art. I loved all the designs, and I loved just the studios. They were full of colour, sheets of designs, you know, absolutely fantastic. So I wanted to sort of imitate the art. That was my first steps, just doing it on paper really. At the factory I was working at, it was so boring. There was no work, so excuse me, I'd be sitting there hiding behind my drawing board in the drawing office, and I'd be banging out little tattoos, simple stuff. But and then I decided really, that's it, I want to have a go. I'd probably had about 6 or 7 tattoos by then, and just watching the guy do it, it was hypnotising. It was fantastic, you know. Big splurge of ink as he put the machine to your skin, and then he wipes it away, and there's a lovely straight line, nice thin line, crisp and clear. It fascinated me, absolutely fascinated me, as I'm sure it does a lot of people. So, but where did I get it? Where did I get my tattoo gear from? You couldn't just go and buy it. There was nowhere you could buy it that I knew of. You know, no one was selling it then. But I did remember seeing in one of my motorcycle magazines an advert quite a while back, before I got into tattoos, about tattoo equipment for sale. So I went up in the loft and I searched through hours and hours of old magazines, comics and that eventually I found it. A little, just a written advert at the back in the classifieds, and it said tattoo equipment for sale, and there's a phone number. So I thought, well, there's probably not going to be anyone there now. It's been quite a while. So I rang it up, and the guy answered. And he told me he was still selling the tattoo equipment. I didn't have a clue what I wanted, but he said he could fix me up with a kit, and told me it would be, I think it was about 400 quid at the time, which was a lot of money. I certainly didn't have it. So I said, okay, I'll get back to you. He was up in Bradford. It was a supplier, Ronnie Starr. It was called Ultra Tattoo Supplies, and he was the first person I knew of that was selling tattoo equipment. But I mean, thank goodness he was. So, like I say, I didn't know what I wanted, but there was no pictures in the advert or anything of what to get. So I just had to play it by ear, really. So I had to save up all my money I could, sold a few things. I got a part-time job actually in a jet garage, putting petrol in cars. I mean, it was pretty boring, but it was good fun. We had such a laugh up there. Some of the lads, they were so funny. So it didn't take me that long. I did lots of overtime, just worked as much as I could really. Got my 400 quid together, and got the address from the guy. And me and my best friend, Paul Miller, up we went from Crawley to Bradford. I'd never been that far up north before, and it was a long way in those days. There was motorways, but it was such a journey. There was a lot of country roads. It took us forever. We got arrested on the way, stopped by the old Bill. He was driving my Volkswagen Beetle because it had big wide wheels, and he'd always wanted to drive it. So as there was no one about on the motorway, we stopped at the service station, pulled in, and then swapped over. He got in the driving seat, and out we came. As soon as we got on the motorway, what's behind us? Cop car. So the lights went up. We were the only car on the motorway that time of night. It was probably about 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. So they stopped us, and cut a long story short, I got done for aiding and abetting, counselling and procuring a criminal act, which was letting him drive my car without insurance, and he got done for driving without insurance. We had to go back up to Leicester, and about a month after we'd done this trip, to go to court, and oh, what a journey that was as well. So, but I drove that time. So it wasn't the best start, but never mind, onwards and upwards. So we finally got to Bradford, and oh my God, what a place that was. It was bit of a dump really, excuse to people from Bradford, but it had just went through this terribly run-down neighbourhood trying to find this place. Turns out it was a sex shop. He was in a sex shop, in the back room in a sex shop. And so we found this sex shop, parked outside it. We were about an hour early, so we're sitting in the car outside this sex shop, which wasn't the best place to sit really, but especially two young lads, you know, I was pretty nervous going all the way up there, and people walking past wondering what the hell we were doing sitting in the car outside a sex shop, I'm sure, but never mind, I was just waiting for the guy to turn up. So he turns up, and so in we go, knock on the door, guy walked in the sex shop. Oh my God, I'd never been in a sex shop before. It was full of all these things. I don't know what you did with them. I had a rough guess, but I wasn't interested in all that. He said, "Hey, all right, lads," in his northern Bradford accent. I said, "All right." He said, I said, "I'm here to see Ronnie Starr." "Oh, tattoo equipment. All right, mate. He's out back." So we went out back through into this even more seedy room, but oh my God, it was full, top to bottom, with tattoo equipment. Colours, designs, inks, boxes of stuff, transformers, power packs, machines. Brilliant. So yeah, again, cutting another long story short, he gave me this box of stuff, said, "There are your kits in there, mate. And there you go." So I said, like, "Right, wait, has it got instructions with it?" "Instructions? No." He said, "No." He said, "Haven't you ever tattooed before?" I said, "No, I'm only just starting, really." "Oh," he said, "Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll give you a bit of an idea." So he said, "You plug this in here and you put that in there, solder your needles onto these bars." You had separate needles and separate needle bars. You had to make your own needles in them days. I mean, luckily I knew how to solder because I'd been working at an engineering factory, but it was all getting too complicated already. So he said, "You can mix the colours together, because you see you haven't bought too tight to buy all the colours, are you?" I said, "Well, I haven't really got all the money." But he just laughed. So that's it. He gave me the box, and as I was going, he said, I was so excited. You know, I had my tattoo equipment. I'd finally got it in my hands. He said, "You see, you're from Crawley?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, my sister lives in Crawley." He said, "I'm coming down to start a tattoo shop up." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm starting a tattoo shop up." I mean, you might as well just told me my dog had died. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. This guy, he's coming down to Crawley to start a tattoo shop. I was the one who was going to start in Crawley. In those days, you couldn't have more than one in a town. And this guy, he did look mean. Plus, he was selling tattoo equipment, so he'd know much more about it than me. I hadn't even used the machine yet. I couldn't believe it. My whole world just collapsed in that one sentence. "Okay, see ya." Yeah, bye. So, the journey home, it was just, I just wanted to get home and go to bed. I was so depressed, honestly, I couldn't believe it. This guy, that was my dream, shattered instantly. There's a professional coming down to start a tattoo shop in my hometown. So I just wanted to chuck the stuff out the window. I'd gone from being on cloud 9 to being absolutely down in the dumps. I couldn't believe it. So my mate was trying to cheer me up, but it wasn't really working. I was absolutely inconsolable. You know, what am I going to do? Where can I go? What can I do? So I got home and I put it under the bed. I don't think I looked at it for a week. I was so fed up. So a few days went by, and I wouldn't say I'd got over it. I was still completely fucked off. But, never give up. I got it all out and put it all together, had the machine buzzing and all that, and it was a rotary machine. It was terrible. It really was. It was the worst machine. But it was a tattoo machine, and it was a start. I got my foot in the door, you know. But what was I going to do about this geezer coming down from Bradford to start up? I didn't know what to do. But luckily, I had a friend. She worked in the for the council, and she in the planning department, and she looked and said, "Well, there's no mention of it, a tattoo shop starting up, because you had to get council permission in those days. Well, you still do." So that made me a little bit happier. And then I had a couple of weeks or so mucking about this equipment and that, and I hadn't heard nothing. So I thought, well, maybe that wasn't true. In the end, maybe he's just winding me up. I think it turns out he was, because he never came down to Crawley, and he just stayed up in Bradford. So nice one, Ronnie. You really got me going there, mate. But thanks for selling me my first bit of equipment anyway. So, I've always got you to thank for that. I was living in a bedsit at the time, and in Three Bridges in Crawley, and a mate of mine let me do my first tattoo on him. It was so funny. It was a swallow. We'd gone down the pub, and he said, "Here, do you want to do a tattoo?" I'm like, "Yeah, all right, yeah." You never ever do a tattoo under the influence of alcohol. I'll tell you now. But that's the only time I've ever done it under the influence of alcohol. But so yeah, why not? I was dying to use my stuff. So we set it all up when we got back to my bedsit, and I put the transfer on. Off we went. About midnight in this bedsit, and then it probably took me an hour and a half, something like that. And it looked all right. It looked like a swallow. Well, it had a head and some wings, and that was it. He crashed out on the floor, and I'm in my little single bed, and he just crashed. We were pretty drunk by then anyway. So the next morning when he woke up, I said, "Let's have a look at the swallow," and there was all this fluff stuck to it where he'd laid on the floor, and where it had bled, it had the carpet fluff had gone on his tattoo. So it was a fluffy swallow, and it looked pretty terrible. But he loved it. It was his first proper tattoo. So. It didn't heal up very well, because when the fluff came off, it took a lot of the colour out. So it wasn't my best effort, but I'd done a tattoo, so there we go. That was my first one in my bedsit. I did a couple more in my bedsit for the lads who worked at the garage with me, in the jet garage. And it was all going really well. I'd probably done 3 or 4. Then one day there was a knock on my bedsit door, and it was the landlord and landlady standing there with this look on their face. I thought, uh-oh, what's going on here? And they said, "Danny," because they were quite posh, "we've just had somebody knock on the front door asking if the tattooist is in." And, and so we realised that it must be you. And I'm like, oh God, I couldn't deny it. Yeah, sorry about that. So they said, right, well, that's it. We want you out of here soon as, by the weekend. So that was that. It cost me my room in my bedsit. So that was my first instance of tattooing, and it got me banned from my bedsit. So wasn't a very good start. So I had to go back and live at my mum and dad's for a while till I could find somewhere else. But thinking about it, I thought, God, I've only done 3 or 4 tattoos on people, and word spread already, and someone came looking for me at my bedsit, wanting me to tattoo them. So, someone actually mentioned that to me in discussion, and I thought, yeah, well, that's true. I mean, God, there must be people want them done. I didn't really have a clue if people wanted to have tattoos done, I did, but don't know about all the rest of the people. But it was sort of taking off already. So I thought, all right, well, I'm gonna jack my job in at the factory I'm at, the shit factory, where I was completely bored out of my skull. So that was it. Get my own tattoo shop. I didn't know how to go about it, but of course a bit of research, you soon find out. So I handed in my notice, and I think I had to work 2 weeks, and then that was it. I was off. The people at the factory were like, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to be a tattooist. They're like, a what? I said, a tattooist. And I said, well, do people have tattoos? I said, well, yeah, I hope so. So, yeah, I think they were all secretly laughing, and like, nothing will come of this, he won't make it. We'll see him back here in a couple of weeks. But no, that was it. I was out of there, and I was so happy. Anyway, back to the tattoo. This is me doing the water. For something like this, you get back to your 9-round shader, 15-round shader. The black, also, you'd be doing with your 9 or 15-round shader. You want it nice and solid and, nice and bold. So you use a round shader for that. The grey, you'd do that with a Magnum, something like a 7 or 11 Magnum, because you want that to be nice and soft, so you can blend the edges out. This is exactly how you'd do it if you were tattooing. It's just obviously much quicker rather than it would be, but same thing, fill it in bit by bit, sections at a time. I used to do 2 hours at a time. That was enough for me. Some people can sit there for hours and hours, but it gets a bit painful after a couple of hours. You've used up all your endorphins, so it can be very painful. So no one wants to go through more pain than they have to. I certainly don't like putting people through more pain than necessary. So 2 hours is enough. You can get quite a bit done. Probably all that blue there I could do in 2 hours. That's like most of the bottom of the guy's back. So something like this, it would take you a long time. It would easily take you 9, 12 months, coming in every couple of weeks, doing a couple of hours. So, you've got a lot of patience on both of your behalves, the guy having it done or the girl, and yourself. But watching it develop is fantastic. Once you've done all the outline and that, brilliant. So I like to get all the background done first, like this, and then save the best bits till last. All the nice details on the dragon and details on the samurai. Some big areas there. So you've just got to put your head down, off you go. So that was it. I was out of a job and I'd left, but that was it. I was on my new career. So all I had to do was find somewhere to do my tattooing, to find a premises. I wanted a proper shop, but it's so difficult. I tried lots of places and they weren't interested in having a tattooist there. I think you had a bit of a sort of a dodgy reputation in those days. They didn't know what you were going to be like, sit there drinking all day, drugs, I don't know. But I eventually found this one place in Crawley, place at Springfield Road, in between the 2 level crossings, Goffs Park and Brighton Road. And it was this tiny little room, but I got planning permission to change of use from an office to a tattoo studio. I couldn't believe it. I'd actually got permission. That was nerve-wracking because lots of people said, you'll never get permission for a tattoo shop. But I did. Fantastic. Off we go. So I set it all up, put my designs up, and that was it. I had my first little tattoo studio. And here's a picture of the shop front. Check the crooked writing. That was it. Brilliant. So I decided to open on a Saturday because that's when it was busiest really in those days. People were at work in the week, of course. And I didn't do any advertising, but the newspapers came down because in those days, a tattoo shop, it was a first in Crawley. And it was news, Danny gets the needle, they said. The thing, typical newspaper. Going to give Crawley the needle and stuff. But so that got me a bit of advertising, and that was the week before I started up. So I went in on the Saturday just seeing what was going to happen. I wasn't expecting anything at all. And when I got down there was a guy standing outside the window, and I was, all right. He said, "Yeah, you're a tattooist?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, can I come in and have a look?" And that was it. I was off. The guy was actually waiting for me to turn up. I couldn't believe it. It's like fantasy land. This is beyond my wildest dreams. Someone was actually going to let me tattoo him. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was an eagle or something like that. It would have been something very simple, but that was it. And then all that day, people were coming up, looking through the window, knocking on the window. I pointed to them, go around to the door. And I was sitting there all day tattooing. It was fantastic, but I mean, my equipment was so bad, you wouldn't believe it. The machine just fucked up about 3 or 4 times, and I had to bang it, and I didn't know what I was doing fixing it, but it must have been a loose wire or something. But bump it and pray, and I got through the day. And at the end of it was about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I got there about 10 o'clock. I couldn't believe it. I'd had a whole day's tattooing. I'd earned some money. I'd earned as much money in that day as I did in a week at the factory. I thought they would freak if they knew that, And I'd had such fun. It was just the best thing I had ever done. So that was it. I was off. Had the Sunday off, and then I didn't bother Monday and Tuesday. Went in on Wednesday. I thought I'd better go and have a tidy up and do some things and that. Got there and there's another bloke waiting outside. I said, "All right." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you the tattooist?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, I come yesterday, but you weren't here." And I thought, "Oh shit, I better take this seriously. People actually want me to tattoo them." And I hadn't really done anything, I hadn't really got a reputation or anything. I was just, obviously I'd had no complaints from the first day, which is always a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah. So that was it. I decided that was it then. I was going to do my 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, and just see who came along. You didn't book anyone in them days. It was all just first come, first serve. So I'd turn up about 10 o'clock, which was brilliant. I used to have to turn up at 7:30 at the factory, and then clock in, and then you'd clock out. You clock in at 7:48 and clock out at 4:38, and that was your 8 hours or whatever it was. So I just turn up 10 o'clock, have a nice lay in, and then turn up, and if there was anyone there, tattoo them, and then finish when I finished. It was just fantastic. It was living the dream. So I wasn't doing stuff that was going to be groundbreaking or earth-shaking, but people were quite happy with it. But I just had so much trouble with the machines. The stuff I'd bought, the colours were crap. The needles were good, and I could do them all right, but I didn't really know how to solder all the needles on properly. I knew to get them the right way around, pointed end downwards, but that was about it. And I roughly had an idea how to do an outliner and a shader and all that. But I had such trouble. It was just, the machine would keep stopping, starting, and you couldn't get a good flow going. So that was my only real problem at the time. I was having the time of my life, but as soon as I picked up the machine, excuse my machine imitation there, but that's what it sounded like to me. It was terrible compared to the ones I was having on my arm. I was still going up and getting tattooed, and I'd watch what they did. That's a lot of how I knew what to do. See what they did, and but the lines they do would be so nice and clean and solid and thin, mine were a bit fuzzy and just weren't what I wanted, but I thought, well, I'll get over it. Just all you can do is crack on, really, and you know, just do your best. So that was it really, but it certainly wasn't easy at first. It was really difficult. You know, I'd be pulling my hair out. Okay, now we're getting onto some of the detailed bits. The decoration on his armour. Difficult to know what to do. I didn't want to put another dragon on there because it didn't seem right, so I thought I'd just... flowers, Japanese flowers, peonies. You can never go wrong with a peony. So you'd something like this, being thinner, you'd have to use perhaps a 5-liner or a 7-liner, get a nice thin line, because you couldn't use a great big thick line for that really. You want it to look nice and fine to be in scale with his armour. So that's what I'd outline all these panels with, and then I'd probably colour it in with a 5-round shader, nice and thin so you can get good solid colour. Just because there's 5 needles, you can still colour in large areas, and if anything the colours will be a lot brighter and dense, so they look really good. So that's what I'd be using here. Start with the darker colours. You could do this panel in one go easily. A couple of hours, maybe 2 panels. But so when you're colouring in, you do the dark colours first, going on to the lighter colours, because you don't want to interfere with the lighter colours with dark colour. So if you were tattooing yellow first and then you did some green and you wipe the excess green ink across the yellow, it might go sort of a lime green because it would still be open where you tattooed it, hadn't healed up yet, so that wouldn't be too good. So you always use your dark colours first. Greens, blues, purples, followed by reds, orange, finally yellows and whites, pinks, that kind of thing. I do like to shade a colour. Say on this green, I would do a mid-green, and then I would shade it with a darker green. I don't like to shade with black because I think that makes it look a bit dull. So I'd use a darker green or maybe even a dark blue to shade the leaves. And that's quite effective. Just a little observation here. You might notice on my earlobe it looks a bit pink. Well, and there's no flesh tunneling there. We had a little bit of a mishap. Me and my friend are making these 3D printed flesh tunnels, 20 millimeters upwards, and I'm painting them, he's printing them. They're nice, they're hand painted. They're Frankenstein, Dracula, orcs, goblins, Joker, witches, and all this sort of thing. They look really good, but 20 mil, they're quite hard to paint. So I thought, well, why don't I stretch my ear up to 25 mil? And then they'll be bigger, and then I can wear them. I'm the actual model for these things. He has got them on the Etsy shop at the moment. But so, of course, I put tape round my 20 mil ones, and I should have known better because I've done it for years. Well, I've had my stretched ears, and I put too much tape round, and I had to shove them through, and oh my God, woke up the next morning, agony. My earlobes were just, I'd shredded them really, where I'd ripped them, where I'd pushed this fucking stretched out flesh tunnel in them. So I had to take them out, and oh dear, they just scabbed over the whole of the inside of my earlobe. So they're now healing up. They're pretty much healed, but they shrunk down to about 10 millimeters. So that's me gone about 10 years back in my ear stretching episode. So you think I'd know better. So now I'm just from one stupid thing wanting to get in and wear these bigger flesh tunnels, so I could model them, and they'd be easier to paint being bigger. Completely fucked it up. So I won't be modelling them for a while, and I'll just be painting them if we get any orders. So if my ear looks a little bit pink and shiny, then you know why. Hopefully I'll be back soon at 25 millimeters, but don't hold your breath. Well, there we are. We're coming to the end. Doing the finer details. That's all the shoulder pads done. Now this is the helmet decoration. Gold, of course. What else would a samurai have? The red samurai. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you think I'm ranting on a bit too much, just say and I'll shut up and put more music on. But I do try and tell you how life goes here and there. It's not all roses, especially in the earlobe department, but the pain's gone, so that's all right. At least I can sleep now. I did laugh. Honestly, you think I'd know better. Just gone back. One stupid thing, just trying to do it too quick, stretching it out, probably put another couple of millimeters on when really I should have done 0.5 millimeter at a time. And I'm back with an almost normal earlobe, which, I can't have that. Anyway, like I say, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it brought a smile to your face. Please like and subscribe if you can, if you've got the time. If you subscribe and like, it does help my channel. So, I want to get the views and I want to do more of these. I've got a few more plans, so don't worry. I do like doing all this, and I like all the editing and that. It makes me feel a bit like Guy Ritchie, So, God bless you all, and very best wishes to you, and thanks ever so much for watching this far, if you've watched this far. And all the very best. See you on the next one.